Recruiting wise, I went to the junior senior all-star game Wednesday. CJ Gunn and Jalen Washington didn't play. CJ Gunn didn't have a great shooting night, but he made up for that in other ways, man. He's got some intangibles. First of all, as a motor, which that's important because just having a motor will get you places, will make up for hell. You talked to in the early days of the Archie regime, we talked about, man, there's nobody diving for balls, no one giving their all. You lost that fight. He's got that in him already. You see it in the natural. He had a great drive and dunk, and then he comes down and blocks Caleb first in that game. So he's just one of those kids that I think that it's got to come together. He's just got a lot. He's got it all out there. He's got a big package of tools.
Yeah, and I think his willingness to play defense is one of the other things. Not a lot of kids at this stage want to play defense and want to take on some of the other top offensive players on the other team, and he wants to do that. And so I think you look at what he can bring to the table, and yeah, a lot of people want to look at maybe his lack of consistent shooting at times, because I think he went about 2 of 13, 3 of 13 in that game, in that scrimmage. But for the most part, he's going to consistently give you not only effort on the defensive end, but also on the offensive end. And he's becoming a lot better of a playmaker, not only for his teammates. He can find a shot. He can get a shot off. That's never been a problem with him. It's just being able to consistently do that at a high level. And I think throughout this summer, you're going to see that a little bit more. But then going into next year, I think the full package is finally going to come together, and you're going to see a lot more consistency from him. This past year was kind of the first big year that he was one of those go-to guys for Lawrence North. But he still had Shamar Evans and DJ Hughes on the team, and those guys take a lot of not only shots, but also just play a huge role on that team as well. So going into next year, I think you're going to see him develop a little bit more of that consistency and take the next step in his development.
Yeah, and Jalen Washington, another target, but he's a target by everybody. That's a guy that's going to be coveted. What makes him so good at what he does?
He's one of these versatile power forwards who started out being more of a back to the basket kind of guy and really kind of honed in on those skills there, and then continued to develop that game. And it's been interesting to watch because he basically, outside of this past junior season, basically didn't play his first 2 years of high school because of injuries. So the fact that he's as skilled as he is right now with very limited in-game action, especially missing AAU for the past couple of seasons as well, is pretty amazing. He has a great ability to shoot the three ball, and that's probably not even his best attribute. And he's just very, very well-rounded. He knows how to play. He's very smart. And one of the bigger things that not only talking to him, but talking to some of his coaches over the past few months is him really learning more about the mental side of the game and being able to bring that consistent piece to the puzzle every single game, which is something that when you're injured, you look at the game a lot more from a different perspective. And I think that really helped him not only kind of get the game to slow down for him, but mentally be able to see and understand a lot more that goes into it than just, maybe some of the X's and O's that a lot of kids think in their freshman and sophomore years.
I had the opportunity to talk to him the other night, and the thing that struck me is well-spoken. I mean, both of these guys, very well-spoken. They have a basketball acumen. You can tell. It's refreshing. It's like, man, these guys are so much. You can tell they're just further ahead than kids were 5 and 10 years ago. I mean, they are just trained in every way now, or most of them, the good ones, to start being a professional, to have that professional attitude. And I can see that already in Jalen and CJ in talking to them. And you know that means that they're more focused and more serious. And that's definitely the kind of players you want.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're definitely the kind of players that Mike Woodson's going after and attracting, which is kind of a lot different than maybe some of the other players who were really high up on Indiana's list the past 4 or 5 years. These guys, these new players you saw with Tamar Bates as well, just the ability for them to think outside of the box when it comes to not only basketball but just their whole development and really knowing what they want and being extremely confident and well spoken. They pretty much check all the boxes when it comes to not only on the court but off the court. And I think that's something that when you're building a really strong program, that's what you want, and that's what Mike Woodson's obviously trying to do, and that's what you're starting to see with all the attraction for all of these top players around the country who want to go on visits to Indiana now, even if they don't have an offer. And that's one of the most important parts in building a program and really setting the foundation, which is what Mike Woodson's doing right now.
Well, and Jalen received an offer from Illinois previously with that staff. Now that staff has moved on to Kentucky, and there has been, and that interest has been continuing now there. So his offers are going to continue to go up. I mean, you don't hide guys like that. So he's going to be a highly sought after guy. He's already Purdue, Indiana, Alabama, North Carolina, Stanford, Oklahoma, Michigan State, Marquette, Penn State. Those schools he hears from most currently. So he's going to be sought after. But this is one that you want to see Indiana get. If you're an Indiana fan, for a couple of reasons. The loss of Trey Kaufman was a recruiting hit from a perception standpoint, at least. I don't know how that will actually translate on the floor. But getting Jalen Washington from up in the region would offset that. That's a tough place for Indiana. Indiana doesn't get a lot of guys from up there. That's more of Notre Dame and Purdue area, just like Southern Indiana is more Indiana recruiting territory. So, but that would show that the staff has their tentacles have spread out statewide, which we know that they're going to, but that would make it happen.
Yeah, and just like you said, I mean, a lot of the times Indiana is not going to get those guys in that region where Jalen Washington is. And that's what shows you what an important piece is, not only to kind of the recruiting foundation, but just kind of setting the standard for what Mike Woodson wants to do in his recruiting. And that's to not only stretch from the entire state, but also the entire country. And I think that's one thing that he's going to bring that's a lot different to the table than what Indiana had in the past, where if you do miss on an Indiana kid, it's not going to hurt you as much as it did maybe 3-4 years ago. And that's the main difference that you're seeing with not only all of the offers that they're extending, but all the guys that they're going after. And that's going to be one of the biggest differences, that if they do miss the Indiana kid, they're going to be just fine.